I'm Joan. I'm a member of Friends of Moreau Lake State Park, and I'm here with my cameraman Rob and my assistant Christine, and we're going to show you some of the trees and how to identify them that grow here in Moreau Lake State Park. The first one, and one of the most common, is the eastern white pine. The white pine is the tallest, is potentially the tallest tree in the forest, 75 to 100 feet tall. It's a sun-loving species and will only grow in a sunny area. Seedlings need a certain amount of sun to get started. The most distinguishing feature of the white pine is that its needles grow in groups of 5. They're very wispy, very soft, and it's the only native pine with 5 needles in the Northeast. The cones are very long and thin, and the bark is dark gray with scales. Nothing really distinguishing about the bark, but the 5 needles will always indicate a white pine. A pitch pine. This is another pine that you'll find. It's not as common in Moreau Lake State Park. It prefers very dry, sandy soils. It's very common on Long Island and on Cape Cod. The thing about the pitch pine is it's different in almost every way from the white pine. It doesn't grow as tall. It has needles are in groups of 3, and they're very stiff. The cones are much smaller, and they end in a little point called a prickle. The bark is very scaly. It's very unique, very scaly with fissures in between, reddish color. And that's it. We've now seen the 2 pines that grow in Moreau Lake State Park. This is a northern red oak, one of the most common trees in this part of the park, and it's probably the only species in the park that has a trail named after it. This tree can be recognized by its leaves, most of which are way up in the upper story where it can get photosynthesized, so we're using a prop here, a copy. The leaves have 7 to 9 point lobes, all ending in a point, a V between. The center part is fairly wide on the northern red oak compared to other species of oak. The northern red oak will grow on most any soil. It prefers, except the wettest sites, it prefers moderately dry, and it can survive in soils that are drier than, say, a sugar maple can. It's also the only oak that will grow further north than here into the Adirondacks in Canada. Most oaks are middle Atlantic species. Here I am standing next to a chestnut oak. Notice the bark on this. Its leaves are its most recognizable thing. Very deep furrows broken into irregular blocks. Its leaves are rounded. The veins end at each of the rounded points. Now we're using paper here because the leaves are way up there. And without binoculars it would be impossible, or telephoto lenses, it would be impossible to see them. But if we could see them, this is what the leaves would look like, and this is a leaf in the fall when it turns brown. Oh, this tree is specific to very dry upland heights. We're a good distance up on the Red Oak Trail, over a mile from the beginning of the trail if you want to find them. Okay, we're looking at a sugar maple here. The easiest way to identify it is through its leaves. Sorry about that tree. With 5 points, smooth edges, and looking like the Canadian flag. The bark varies so much from its youth, which this is a young tree, to a full 100-something, 200-year-old specimen that it's almost impossible to use the bark. Maples prefer very rich, loamy soils compared to the oak. So you don't find as many oak down around Moreau Lake itself, which is very sandy soils. Here we are underneath a striped maple, and I confess that this is my favorite tree. The best characterization of it is a little tree with big leaves. The leaves are all three-pointed, and the tree itself doesn't grow, average maybe 20 feet, it can grow up to 40 feet maximum. What's unique about it is its bark. You can see the stripes on the bark, the lighter green on the darker green bark. The bark can vary from light green to brown. Sometimes the stripes are barely visible. This is a pretty good one where you can actually see the stripes. This is the typical understory tree. It not only is it shade tolerant, but it dislikes sun. Here's another common tree, the American beech, often found in the understory. It has two distinguishing characteristics. One is the smooth gray bark. The other is its leaves, which are oval with a point at the end of each vein. We're standing here in a small, dark hemlock grove. Hemlock prefer cool, moist sites. They're a conifer that, unlike spruce and fir, grow with hardwoods, with the standard hardwoods, the sugar maples, the birch. The needles, it's hard to see under here, but they have a white line on the underside. The cones are very tiny, and the bark is brown with furrows. It's so dark, these trees are extremely shade tolerant, and it's so dark under them that very little else will grow.